So let's talk about the phone number authentication today. So head over to the Firebase console and then enable the phone number sign in, flip the switch to turn it on and then save. Then in Android Studio, I have already initialized an on-click method in the XML to sign in, and then I've designed a screen to also pick the user phone number and then verify the code automatically or manually. So that is the phone sign-in screen, sign in with phone, and that is a verification code screen. And that is the method that I just talked about, which is the sign in with phone method. I have is in the phone sign-in class. This is it. So here I'm going to write an intent to send the user to the phone number input activity. Now in the activity, I am going to initialize the edit text that captures the phone number from the user. So I will just call it phone and then reference it from the XML. But another one is the button itself to actually go to the verification code activity. Just check the ID to make sure I'm referencing the right one. So the button is called sign in. Okay. So I'll reference them now. Call phone equals find it by ID and then the ID. And also set an on-click listener, and is that the on-click method. I'm going to write this method, then let Android Studio create it automatically for me. So in this method, what I'm going to do is to call a string and then get the phone number from the input. So I say phone.get text.toString, get the text, and then even though it's a number, but convert it to a string because we want to send a string to Firebase, and then trim it also. So it is always better to check that the input is not null, so you won't send a null. It might crash the application if you don't. And if it is not null, then we want to navigate to the other activity, which is called the verification code activity. So initialize the context by calling this and then call verification code activity a class, and then start the activity by calling start activity intent. But we need to also send the phone number to the other activity. So we'll use intent extras to do that. So call intent.put extra, and the ID is going to be num, and then the value is going to be from the string that we got. Then start the activity. So all that is done. And then in the verification code activity, we need to get the string that was sent from the other activity. But let's initialize Firebase authentication first. And also we need to initialize the widgets in that activity XML. So call the edit text and let's say input, and then the button. Well, let's just give it a descriptive name. Start signing. Yeah, start signing is good. And then reference it, calling arrow.id dot the ID it was given, code input. So in this section, we want to get the intent that was sent from the other activity. We'll get it and store it in a string variable called number. So use get intent dot get extras, get string extra, and the ID was called num. Yep, that's it, num. So I will call the method to send the verification code once we navigate to this activity. So after the user type in his phone number and then navigate to the other activity, the phone number function starts running automatically and then waits for an SMS from Firebase. So I'll click Alt Enter to create the method for me with the parameter. And then I will call the method that is actually responsible for that, the phone not provider, and then initialize it. Then call the verify phone method. This takes in some parameters. The first is the number, so which I'm going to start with the country code. In Nigeria, I'll just say +234. There's a country code here. And then the followed by the actual number itself from the user. I'll go to the next slide. The other parameter is the time interval in which the SMS is supposed to come. So here I will just say 60 seconds, which is a minute. Select seconds, 10 minutes or seconds. The other one is the thread in which this process is supposed to be executed. So I'll just choose the main thread because the process isn't much. And then the last parameter is the callback, which we doesn't which we don't have yet, we have not created yet. So I'll do it in next line. So I'll create a private phone auth provider and call the on verification state change listener callback, then just call it callback. So the callback in the other parameter will automatically be fixed, and then call the phone auth provider on verification change listener. That will give us two interface method, the on verification complete and the on verification fail. There is another method which handles the on-code sends. We'll initialize that later. But for now, let's get the code that was sent. So I'll just call a string and call it code. Then say phone out credential.get SMS code. Then in the next line, I'll check if code isn't null. It's always a good practice to do that, so your app doesn't crash. So if code isn't null, that means we're good to go. So there's another method that should verify the code that was sent. What just happened? I just snapped out of it. No. We need to set the code that was sent to the edit text. So in this case, the user doesn't have to do anything. You don't have to type any code that was sent. Everything happens automatically. So here I am going to write a method which doesn't exist. I'll call it verify code, and I'll pass in the code that was sent to the parameter of the method, and then click Alt Enter. So that is the verify code method which verifies the code, and then after verifying the code, it's called the other method which is called signing with credentials. Signing with credentials is what's signed in the user with Firebase, and this string is actually initialized, which is called the verification code ID. This is used for when the code has been sent. So we're going to call that method the on code send, and then initialize the verification code to the S there. So when this is done, we call a toast to show to the user that the code has been sent. So make sure again that the phone number is enabled. So here I'm going to test the application to see if everything works correctly. So I'll sign in with my phone number, put in the phone number. Here's the phone number that I want to use to sign in. So I'll type it. After typing, I'll hit sign in, next rather. So there it is, automatically waiting for the code. That's the ID of the user, which means it works. That is the code, signs in automatically, verifying, and I'm in. So this is it for the tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any question, please write it down in the comments below and I'll get back to you. So I will see you in the next video.